Good afternoon, Ms. Russ, Mr. McFarland. We're still waiting on Mr. Russ's connection. Once we have that, we will go on the record and move forward.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Russ, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you now. I'm sorry I'm having technical difficulties, but I can hear you. I can see you as well.
Okay. All right, we're getting some background noise from your phone. So I'm gonna mute your channel. You'll still be able to hear us, but that'll remove that extra noise. Thank you. Okay, Shannon, put us on the record, please.
All right.
This is a matter of Russ versus Russ, continued evidentiary hearing. And according to my notes, we surprised you at the last hearing, Mr. White, by asking you to respond on very short notice to some new claims that were made, and I gave you some time to address those. So I'm guessing that's where we left off, is your defense to the allegations of provisions of the judgment not being followed.
Correct, Your Honor. And before I get started, I just want to make sure that the court's clear that my motion was pending for almost a year before, right before our evidentiary hearing, we get this verified motion, which is not verified, but we get this motion for enforcement. I just want to make sure the court's clear on the timeline here.
Yeah, I wasn't so clear at the start of the last hearing, but I'm very clear now.
Very good. We're prepared to call Mr. Russ.
Okay, Mr. Russ, you need to unmute your phone.
Yes, sir, I'm unmuted.
All right, I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand.
Yes, sir.
You do swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir, I do.
State your full name for the record.
Joseph Oliver Russ, Jr.
Go ahead, Mr. White.
Mr. Russ, I forwarded you what's entitled Verified Motion to Enforce Judgment of Divorce that was filed almost a year after we filed our motion. Did you remember getting that, receiving that from my office?
Yes, sir, I do.
The first paragraph stated that you were supposed to pay COBRA insurance for 3.5 years. Is that correct?
No, sir, it was supposed to be for 3 years.
Okay. And do you remember in the judgment of divorce whether it was you or your wife, ex-wife, that was supposed to set this up?
She had to set it up. There was nothing I could do. The insurance company doesn't allow me to do that. It was all stuff she had to do.
Okay. It says here that the second paragraph said that the first payment that defendant was to make was late, causing the plaintiff's health insurance to be canceled. Do you know anything about that?
So Kim came to me about 5 months after the divorce, and she had a bill that showed 5 months due. Sat with her and figured out what 75% of that was. I don't remember the exact number, $2,300 or so. And I wrote a check and sent to the insurance company for that. And that was the last I heard for a short time.
Let's talk about, so your former wife never bothered to set anything up for 5 months. It's the first time you heard anything?
Yes, sir. That was the first time I heard anything.
When's the first time you actually ever got anything in writing requesting payment from Consumers Energy for this, your portion of the COBRA cost?
I never got anything from Consumers. I couldn't have anything to do with that insurance policy because it was hers to set up.
So 5 months after the divorce, she finally gets around to it. And where did you sit down at and have this meeting?
she actually came to my house.
Okay. And what did she tell you? Did she explain why she waited 5 months or why all of a sudden she wants money now?
She said that there was some deal with trying to get paperwork from them, something about her change of address. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but that's when she said she got it worked out.
And how much fault do you have for this 5-month time lag?
I don't have any fault in that.
So you came up with an amount that you believe that you owed for those 5 months. Is that correct? He's muted now, Judge. Can you unmute him?
Yes, sir, I did. I'm
Aye.
sorry. I'm trying to keep the mute off, keep the background down.
Is that the check that you wrote on looks like May 20th, 2019 for $2,131.42?
Yes, sir, that would be it.
And that was check number 560. What'd you do with that check?
I sent the check directly to the insurance company. That's what we agreed that I would do.
Okay, so now it's May of 2019 and you send in your portion. What's the next contact you have from either Consumers Energy or from Kimberly regarding this health insurance issue?
I don't remember exactly when it was, Eric, but at some point she notified me that she did not get the insurance and she was having to file something with them, trying to get them to reinstate it because the payment was late.
Well, you paid your portion. What about her portion?
I don't have any details on that. They wouldn't give me any information on that.
It mentions in this verified motion, it says that the plaintiff, which is Kimberly, appealed this cancellation from the insurance company, which took almost 9 months. Do you have any idea what she's talking about there? Joe?
Mr. Russ, you're muted again.
Still muted, Joe. Still muted,
Yeah,
Joe.
I can mute someone, but I can't unmute them. All I can do is ask them to unmute, and I've clicked that button. I wonder if we lost our connection.
That sound in the background was wind. I wonder where.
Okay,
I'm
I'm back. I'm sorry. I just wasn't able to secure a good spot with working all. Could you ask me the question again, Eric?
Sure. It says that that plaintiff appealed this cancellation with the insurance company, which took almost 9 months. Do you have any idea what she's talking about, this 9-month period? You're muted again.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna try to leave it off mute. That way I don't have this issue. I don't know what the 9 months was, Eric. She said she was gonna have to appeal it to try and get them to reinstate the insurance is all I knew.
Did she ask you to do anything when she mentioned that she had to file this appeal?
No, sir. There's nothing I could do.
The next paragraph says that after this, the plaintiff had to pay $6,900 to reinstate this insurance, which was borrowed from friends and family. Do you have any idea what she's talking about there?
No, I know she said she had to do that, but I don't know any of the details.
Then it says that the month following the reinstatement, the defendant sent her a check for $800 towards the next 2 months insurance. Did you send that check?
Yes, sir, I did.
What happened to that check?
It bounced. I had something come out of my account on automatic payment that I wasn't thinking about, so the check bounced.
How did you become aware that it bounced, Joe?
She notified me. Kimberly did.
So what did you do when she told you?
She told me, Eric, and I got cash and gave her cash, but I don't have any record of it.
Do you remember how long ago it was that or how long after the check was returned, or how long after Kimberly let you know that you paid her cash?
I think it was a week or so, week and a half.
This motion was filed on January 27th, 2021. When's the last time you heard from Kimberly about this $800 bounce check between the time you wrote it and made good on it and January 27th? You ever heard any contact with her asking for more money about that?
No, sir.
I'll skip some of these, Joe, but on number 9, or scratch that. What are you doing right now to pay your portion of her insurance?
I've been sending $475 a month, which was what was determined to be the 75% of the cost of the insurance that she had said she got when they reinstated the insurance.
How did you make those payments?
I made it through the Cash app on the phone.
And as far as you know, well, are you behind on assisting Kimberly with that health insurance right now?
No, sir. I owe her for this month. I am current to this month.
Well, I'm looking at their verified motion. It gives no dates. It doesn't tell, actually it gives no dates for anything. In looking at this, could you even figure out how much they claim you owe?
No, sir. I have no idea.
You and I went through this at length trying to figure out what this motion even meant. Do you have any idea, based on the motion they filed, how they could claim you owe them any money for health insurance costs?
No, sir. I don't know that.
Okay. So you're not in any violation, anything regarding these health insurance, is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Number 9 says that the defendant was ordered to pay 75% of the party's debts. Do you remember that part?
Yes, sir. I do.
And it says, to date, defendant has made no payments towards these debts and put this entire burden on the plaintiff with her limited income. How many times since this divorce was finalized has Kimberly asked you for your share of the 75% of your marital debts?
She's never asked me for the 75%. And in fact, I have made payments on every one of those that I had. A number of them were just accounts in my name only. So I've been paying them off in full.
Well, it's hard to tell, Joe, because they don't bother to list any debts or of anything. It just is a 2-line
It's just a
sentence.
list of debts. Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you remember the judgment of divorce?
Yes, sir. I do.
Okay. That's the part that told what you had to pay, right?
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at page 10 of the judgment of divorce, and it lists, it looks as though it lists 17 debts that are to be paid with you paying 75%. First one says American One Credit Union Visa, $5,000. Have you contributed 75% to that?
I paid that off. That was mine. I paid 100%.
Oh, so actually then Kimberly owes you 25% of $5,000 then, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The next one is an American One Credit Union signature loan of $4,800. Whose name's on that?
That would be mine.
And have you made payments on that?
Yes, sir. I paid it off.
So you paid $4,800. Did Kimberly contribute her 25%? Joe?
No, sir. She didn't pay any on that.
So she owes you 25% of $4,800, right?
Yes, sir.
The next one is a Best Buy credit card, $1,100. Whose name is on that account?
That was mine.
And have you made any payments on that?
I paid that off.
Did you get 25% of that from Kimberly?
No, sir.
So she owes you 25% of that, right?
Yes, sir.
How about a Care credit card for $1,000?
I'd have to look at the number. I do have a Care credit that I paid off as well here.
So you paid that off. Did you get 25% from Kimberly?
No, sir.
Okay. It says there's an Allegiance medical bill number 1129 for $5,000. Do you know whose bill that is?
I'm not sure on that one, Eric. I know she had a medical bill. I know I had some medical bills. I'm not sure on that one.
Have you ever been asked to contribute to Allegiance medical bill 1129 for $5,000?
Again, I don't have that number with me, Eric, but I've been paying on an Allegiance medical bill still.
Oh, so you're paying on Allegiance medical bill. Do you know how much you paid?
I've been paying $100 a month, and I've paid over $2,000 on it.
And has Kimberly given you her 25% of that?
No, sir.
So she owes you on that bill as well. There's a veterinarian bill listed number 6 for $2,000. Do you know about that?
That's hers.
Have you paid anything on that?
No, sir.
Has there ever been any request from the veterinarian or Kimberly, either orally or in writing, to pay that bill?
No, sir.
Number 7, it says Lending Club loan 8662, $3,373. You know whose account that is?
I believe that was hers.
Have you made any payments towards that?
No, sir.
Have you been requested either orally in writing up until this motion that was filed right before our evidentiary hearing? Were you ever asked to contribute to that?
No, sir.
The next one is an ABC Warehouse credit card, number 8236 for $1,500. You know what that is?
That was hers.
Have you been requested to make any kind of payments on that?
No, sir.
Number 9 is a Credit One bank credit card. It ends in 6128, $1,909.28. Do you know what that is?
I believe that's the one that I've paid, Eric.
And how much of that have you paid?
I believe I paid that off.
And how much, and did Kimberly give you her 25% that she's required to give to you?
No, sir.
How about the next Credit One bank credit card ending in 1051?
I believe that was hers.
And have you made any payments towards that?
No, sir.
Have you been requested to make any payments up until this last minute motion?
No, sir.
Okay. How about a Home Depot credit card? I'm sorry, there's a Third Bank One credit card number 2006 for $903. Do you know anything about that?
I believe that was hers there.
Okay. And have you made any payments on that?
No, sir.
And you were requested to make any payments on that up until this last minute motion?
No, sir.
Okay. There's a Home Depot card for $680. Do you know what that is?
That would have been hers, and I made no payments on that.
Okay. It says number 14 is a CP Federal Credit Union overdraft loan for $834.
That would have been joint, but I believe she paid that.
And have you contributed to that at all?
No, sir.
Been requested to?
No, sir.
Number 15 is a PayPal credit card for $3,330.48. Do you know whose name that's in?
Eric, I would have to look the number up, but I have a PayPal card that I've been paying off. I think we had 2 of them, and I think I'm going to say I think that's the one I'm paying off, but I can't guarantee that 100% at this moment.
Do you know how much you've paid on that PayPal credit card?
I've paid the one that I had down to about $900.
I'm going to object. The testimony is coming in on PayPal credit card 0993, as has already been testified by the defendant that he is not certain if that payment he made is on that credit card.
I have no idea what that objection means, but he's trying to clarify what he remembers, Judge. I have no idea what that objection is.
Are you saying that he testified previously about the same issue? I'm not sure what your objection is.
Your Honor, I'm objecting to the defendant testified that he was not certain whether he paid on PayPal credit card 0993, and then the next series of questions by his attorney.
I got you. I understand the objection. I'll receive the testimony for what it's worth.
There's only one PayPal credit card listed here, Joe, in the judgment. Do you know of another PayPal credit card that exists?
We both had a PayPal credit card, I believe, Eric. It's been 3 years since we were even together, but I think there were 2 PayPal cards.
And you did pay down one, down to how much?
I think it's about $900 left owing on it now.
Did you get 25% of that from Kimberly as required by the judgment of divorce?
No,
Again,
sir, I
I'm
did
going to
not.
repeat my objection.
Your
Again, Your Honor,
objection's
I'm
noted.
clueless what he's talking about. I don't know what the basis of his objection is. I'm not trying to respond to it.
Well,
I
the
think
basis of my-
he's objecting because your client said he thought there were 2 PayPal accounts and not just one, and he wasn't sure which one he paid on.
Okay.
I understand the objection. I only see one PayPal credit card listed here. If that's the one, I don't expect him to remember what the card number is and whether this is the one or not. I will receive his testimony for what it's worth.
And it's hard, and Your Honor, it's hard because their motion is literally one sentence, didn't pay bills, doesn't list any of them, lists nothing. So it's essentially they throw it out there and leave it to me to basically.
Is the attorney for the defendant testifying or asking questions of the defendant?
I think he's arguing about your objection.
Exactly. I'll move forward. So the next one, Joe, is Allegiance Health Judgment 17-4010-GC, $3,098.04. Do you know what that bill is?
That would be her bill there.
Did you make any payments towards that?
No, sir, I didn't.
And been requested to make any payments?
No, sir.
The last one is a Sam's credit card, 2445, $1,380. Do you know what that is?
That's her card, and I didn't make any payments on that either.
And up until this last minute motion, was anything ever filed with the court? Did you receive any letters from Ms. Russ, letters from attorneys saying, hey, you owe your 25%?
No, sir, nothing.
Did you ever have any discussions with Ms. Russ about looks to be about $12,000, $14,000 worth of bills you paid off that she owes you 25% of? Have you checked on that?
No, sir, I did not.
Okay. It says, to date, defendant has made no payments towards these debts. We know now that that's absolutely not true, is it, Joe?
Yes, sir, that's not true.
And it says that put this entire burden on the plaintiff with her income, with her limited income. Do you have any idea what bills that Kimberly's paid?
No, sir, I don't have any idea.
There's nothing in their motion about anything at all about that, is there?
No, sir.
Okay. The next one says that the defendant was ordered in the judgment of divorce to pay 1/2 the fee for preparation of a qualified domestic relations order. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir, I do.
The next one says that as of the filing date of this motion, defendant has refused to pay these monies. You remember reading that?
Yes, sir, I remember reading that.
Yeah. And exactly how many times have you been requested to pay that in the last 3 years?
So one time only.
And how'd you handle that, Joe?
I was sent a letter by her attorney saying that I could send the money to his office or I could pay the Quadro company. So I called the Quadro company, attempted to pay them, but they would not take payment because they said nothing had been filed. So they would not take money. And that would have been probably 4 months after the divorce, 3 or 4 months.
So in the last 2.5 years, how many requests have been made? How many times in the last 2.5 years have you refused to pay these monies?
Never.
Thank you. And as far as these bills go that you haven't paid, or the health insurance and this Quadro issue, in the last 3.5 years, is this 2-page motion the first time you've heard of it?
Yes, sir, it is.
Thank you. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Questions, Mr. McFarland?
Yes. So, Mr. Russ, in regards to first, the health insurance, are you aware of any delay with Blue Cross Blue Shield sending documentation to the plaintiff?
I'm not aware of anything that transpired that I wasn't able to be involved in.
Okay. So would it be your testimony that if there was a delay or not a delay, you'd have no idea? Is that correct?
Yes, sir, I wouldn't know.
Okay. And when you were presented the information regarding the cancellation, what action did you take at that point?
I never received any information about a cancellation.
Did you receive any notice about a cancellation from Ms. Russ?
She told me that it had been canceled, yes.
Okay. And what information did she relay to you to reverse that cancellation? Or did she?
She told me that she was having to file something with them to try to get them to reinstate it.
Did she tell you that a lump sum had to be paid or not?
She told me she had to pay it, but I didn't know the figure or anything.
So it's your testimony. She simply told you there was money she had to pay, and she never told you that number or never asked that you contribute towards that for the divorce judgment.
No, she never asked me to contribute.
And I did hear your testimony that you later, when you do know, you are aware that that insurance was reinstated?
Yes, sir. She told me she had the insurance and that she was asking me to pay the 75%. So I started paying it.
And was it after that then that your check bounced?
The check bounced when she first told me. That was the first payment.
Okay. Have you kept track? So would you acknowledge that Ms. Russ has had to obtain her own insurance that is not insurance through Cobra?
No, sir. I wasn't aware of that.
Okay. When you say that you've been making payments of $475, is it then your belief that that $475 is the amount that is owing for insurance under Cobra?
That was the figure of 75% of the cost she was paying for Cobra insurance that she informed me of.
And so I'm sorry, I did not hear your answer. What type of insurance did you say, sir?
The 475 was 75% of the cost of the Cobra insurance through Blue Cross Blue Shield through my employer.
And have you kept track of each month that you paid?
Yes, sir. The printout y'all actually sent in shows the Cash App payments that were made.
All right, Your Honor, I had sent an attachment today to Mr. White and also to the court. I would ask that that be introduced as an exhibit. It's my understanding that I did receive an email from Mr. White that there was not an objection to that, but I will wait to hear his response.
I don't think I've seen anything.
Okay, it's my understanding.
Who did you
that
email? Who'd you email it to?
Your Honor, if I could go off the record for a second, or if I could talk to my secretary, she was the one who emailed it, and I can find out what address it was sent to.
Thank you. Why don't you do that?
All right, 1 second, Your Honor.
I can scan your copy, Judge, right to my desk if you want it.
Your Honor, that was sent to Dawn Sherwood, is what my secretary is telling me.
Down here? Did she forward something?
She printed something off and asked me to put it in the file.
I saw this. Let me see if there's something loose in here.
Let me check your desk, see if it slipped out.
I can have Dawn send it up. I don't know what happened to it.
I can
Did
scan
she
it right
print it
here from my
without-
desk, Judge, if you want it.
Oh, wait a minute.
I think that was it.
You sent a hearing brief.
That was on Monday, Your Honor.
Oh, but since then you sent something else. Okay.
Yes, Your
That's
Honor.
all I had from, Dawn.
Judge, I've just scanned it in. I'll send it to Peter right now.
Okay.
Judge, when I print, it's gonna go upstairs, so it's gonna take me a second to grab it.
Oh. Oh, well, send it to me and I'll pull it up on the screen. You can go get the hard copy. I can at least see the
Okay.
scanned copy.
Your Honor, I'm sorry for the difficulty. I thought that was a proper method to send it to.
No, that was fine. I just don't know what happened to it. Dawn's pretty good, so I probably lost it.
I just sent it to Peter.
Great.
Well, that printed.
I think that's it.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I am looking at a list of payments. Looks like 7 payments. 5 for $475, 1 for $310, and 1 for $165. I can see there are dates associated with this, but they're very, very faint. Can you read those dates clearly on your copy, Mr. McFarland?
Yes, Your Honor, I can. May I do so for the court?
Why don't you do that and I'll write it in.
All right. The very bottom one says July 7th, 2020.
Okay,
The second from the bottom says July 30, 2020.
okay,
The third from the bottom says October 7, 2020.
okay,
The fourth from the bottom says 310, November 6, 2020.
okay.
The fifth from the bottom says November 6th, 2020.
There were 2
That's
payments made the
165.
same day?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay,
The second from the top is December 9th, 2020, 475.
okay,
And then the very top one is 475, January 16th.
Of 21.
January 16, 21. Yes, Your Honor.
So is this a Cash App payment? Or
Yes, sir,
payments?
Your Honor. I pay through Cash App, so there's a record like that of it now.
Okay. All right, and let's see where we were with numbers. Looks like your last exhibit was number 8, so this would be plaintiff's 9. There being no objection, exhibit 9 is admitted as modified by me on the record with the clarification of the payment dates.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
You may.
All right. So, sir, did you make any payment for September of 2020? Mr. Russ, you're on mute, sir.
I don't recall if you've got the paper. I know I made a couple double payments like in the same month. I don't believe I missed anything.
Well, sir, I show a payment on July 7th and a payment on July 30th. I could assume, would it be fair to say that one is for July and one is for August?
That's possible, yes, sir.
And if I don't show another payment until October, my question for you is, where would be the August and the September payment?
Well, if the one was for August and if I missed one in September, I've given her cash, but I didn't get receipts. I am not saying I gave her September's in cash. I don't recall.
Sir, did you feel that she needed to let you know that you had to pay this money?
No, sir. I just try to remember to pay it.
Okay. I show a payment in November, 1 of 310. Let me get my calculator out. I show a payment of 310 plus 165. Sir, would that surprise you at all if that equals 475 for the month of November 2020?
No, sir. Doesn't surprise me.
Okay, all right. Have you made a payment then in the month of February of 2021?
Yes, sir, I did, but that wasn't updated.
Okay. Now, do you know, again, is it your assumption, your testimony is that you feel these monies you're paying right now is part of the Cobra insurance? Is that your testimony, sir?
That's been my understanding all along. Yes, sir.
Okay. Next, moving to the issue of debts. You indicated that you had paid, and I am on page 10 of page 12 of the judgment of divorce. You had made reference to American One Credit Union Visa of $5,500, or excuse me, $5,000. I apologize. $5,000, sir?
Yes, sir.
Did you at any time ask the plaintiff for a 25% payment on this bill?
No, sir. I never asked her for 25% of any of the stuff I was paying.
Okay. Do you feel that the divorce judgment was unclear when it said defendant shall pay 75% and plaintiff will be responsible for 25% of the debts?
No, sir.
Okay. So you're well aware that the remaining debts that you've not disputed in your testimony were solely were debts that the plaintiff had that you were still responsible for?
Yes, sir.
Finally, on the issue of the qualified domestic relations order, could you help me understand your testimony? are you stating that you have paid money so far towards the qualified domestic relations order of any of them, of any of the retirement accounts in the, I'm going to start over again. In any of the,
No, sir.
well, let me finish the question, sir. In any of the retirement accounts in the divorce, have you paid any money at all towards the preparation of them?
No, sir.
Is it your testimony that you were never asked by the plaintiff?
No, sir.
So she never asked you whatsoever for any payment. Is that what your testimony is, sir?
Yes.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Any redirect, Mr. White?
No, thank you.
Any further proofs from either party?
No, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I would like to call my client, Ms. Russ, regarding the testimony that's been presented today.
Hasn't she already testified?
I think she has, but
Okay.
to some extent. But I'll just make sure. Raise your right hand, please. You do swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, Your Honor.
You can put your hand down, state your full name.
Kimberly Marie Russ.
All right, Ms. Russ, have you heard the testimony of the defendant today?
Yes.
And ma'am, I'm trying to be clear. I'm only trying to ask you questions about the testimony today, not anything further, okay?
Yes.
So please do not go further than the scope of what we're talking, what's been questioned today. Defendant testified, did you hear defendant's testimony about his knowledge of your obtaining the Cobra insurance?
Yes. It is not true.
Why do you believe that is not true?
Joe and I have remained friends throughout this whole entire thing. I took the bill to Joe's house, as he states. I took the bill right to his house. We talked about it. Like he said, we figured out the 75%. That was his portion and my portion. I told him, I'll send in my portion. You send in your portion. I showed him the date on it and said, it has to be paid by this date. It had nothing to do with the 5 months. The first part of it was that they did have the wrong address. So they had to send it to the correct address. Once we got the bill, everything was fine. I sent in my 25% and he did not send in his 25 or his 75%. So I contacted them after about 3 weeks and they said they had no
Objections to
payment.
what they would say, Your Honor, it's hearsay.
Okay, this was the insurance company.
Your Honor, my objection is that
Your
it's
Honor, I'll
hearsay.
rephrase
Whatever
the
an
question.
insurance company said, they need to
Well,
be.
yeah, let me dispense with this. By his own testimony, he didn't send in 75%.
Right,
So it really doesn't matter what the insurance company said.
right.
Go ahead.
So exactly, Your Honor. So then 21 days after I gave him that bill, he then finally sent the check in. By then, the policy was canceled. You only have a certain amount of time after the date it's due. So
Ms.
I
Russ,
had
did
to
you let
file
him
an
know,
appeal.
ma'am, 1 second. Did you let him know at all about these
Yes.
deadlines?
Yes.
How did you
Throughout
let him
the
know?
whole thing.
Ma'am, 1 second, 1 second. Let me ask a question. How did you let him know?
I went to his house. We sat and talked about it. I cried with him, telling him what had happened. I was so upset. I cried for weeks and weeks. I lost my insurance. It was huge to me. Do you want me to continue with what I had to do?
Please continue.
Okay. So then after that happened, I had to file an appeal. That's what the insurance company told me to do. I filed the appeal. They told me it would be 6 to 8 weeks. I waited. It was devastating the whole time. I was unable to even sleep because I was so upset. I kept calling. Finally, 1 year later, it was an exact year later, I got a letter in the mail stating that I won my appeal, but the only way to reinstate in the insurance was if I came up with $6,900 and I don't remember the exact amount, $992 or something like that.
Ma'am, did you communicate that to
Yep.
the defendant?
Yes, I have the text messages to prove it, and we
What was his
talked about it.
response? What was his response to that, ma'am?
He said, I don't have the money. That's all he would tell me is I don't have the money. I said, anything, Joe, anything would help. He ignored me half the time when I would text him about it. So it got closer and closer, and I knew I couldn't lose my insurance. I actually went to some family, and
Ma'am, don't testify about anything they've said to you that would be considered hearsay.
okay, I went to family. I asked them to help me get a loan because I could not lose my insurance. This was the day before.
Did you borrow money, ma'am?
Yes, I did.
And
I had to borrow the entire amount.
And you solely made this payment?
Yes, sir.
Did
The
you ever
whole-
ask Mr. Russ for reimbursement?
Yes, over and over, I've asked him to help pay his 75%.
And what was his response?
I don't have the money.
Okay, so then you heard his testimony about a check bouncing. Did you hear that a few minutes ago?
Yes,
Right. Would that have been after this lump sum payment was paid or before?
this was after I got the insurance reinstated. I paid the money, I got it reinstated. I then went over to his house because we've been hanging out. I went over to his house. I took him the bill. We sat down once again. We figured out what it would be. And he wrote me a check for what his portion was.
Okay, so
said
ma'am,
it-
I don't mean to cut you short, but he's already testified about it bouncing.
Okay,
What happened to your insurance after that check bounced?
it once again was canceled and I was told I could not appeal again.
All right, did you let Mr. Russ know that you no longer qualified for Cobra insurance after that check bounced?
Yes, sir.
And so how, the $475 that Mr. Russ is paying you, just to be clear, did you let him know that that is not for the Cobra insurance?
Yes, we talked about it.
Would the Cobra have insurance, in your understanding, would it have cost less than that much money for you to pay for it?
I don't understand the question.
Okay, so right now, how much are you paying for your insurance?
$714.
How much were the insurance payments per month before under the Cobra plan?
I don't remember the exact amount. His portion was $475. But I don't know what it is now exactly.
So what
but it
difference
has
does
went
it
up.
make? So is the insurance that you have right now giving you the same benefits that the previous insurance under Cobra had?
Not at all. It's way, way less. I
In
don't,
what
my
ways is
prescriptions,
it way less?
okay. My
what way?
deductible is way higher, way, way higher. So the beginning of January, I literally have to pay for everything. My prescriptions, I have to pay for all of them. It's way, way more. My deductible, my prescriptions, my co-pays are like $250 to go to the ER.
What were they before?
Zero.
Before, what were?
Zero. I had no co-pays at all through his insurance that he was ordered to pay. So now I have scripts sitting there right now I can't afford to even go get.
Ma'am, there was questions. I'd like to move on beyond the health insurance issue, to the debt issue. Would you agree, and I'm on page 10 out of 12 of the divorce judgment, would you agree item 1, American Credit One Union Visa for $5,000, and number 2, American One Credit Union Signature Loan for $4,800? Would you agree those are both the defendant's bills?
Yes, I agree those are his bills, but he got those after we
I have to
separated.
object, Your Honor, to that characterization. These aren't the defendant's bills. These are the party's bills.
He got those after we separated.
Your Honor.
That's not what the judgment of divorce says, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I'm only asking the same question that was earlier asked by the attorney for the defendant who had acquired this, whose bills these were.
It's whose name they're in. They're
Well,
obviously
I
the party's bills.
I don't want to hear testimony as to when any of these bills were generated. They're in the judgment of divorce. All she needs to testify to is, I mean, it doesn't matter to me whether she says this was his bill or her bill. Mr. White is correct. According to the judgment of divorce, these are marital debts, and who originally created the indebtedness is of no consequence. I want to know what happened with the indebtedness.
I will move on, Your Honor. Number 5, the Allegiance Healthcare Bill 1129. Who has made payments on that bill?
I have.
There were questions of other bills, whether or not payments have been made on by yourself or by the defendant. Were there any that you disagreed upon, payments that he stated he made?
Yes, there were several of the bills he said that he's been paying on, but he's not. I have proof through Green Path that I've been paying them. I sent
Okay.
all that.
What bills did he testify that he's been paying to that you have paid instead?
The PayPal, I paid both of those. And the Care One, I've been paying, actually paid that one off. The only 2 bills that he has paid are the top 2 bills, as far as I know. I've been paying on every other bill.
And when he mentioned, so it's your testimony, okay. So all the bills except for the top 2 you've made payments on, is that your testimony?
Yes, it's taken out of my account 2 times a month.
In regards to the qualified domestic relations order, which of those that are related, described in the divorce judgment, have you already had a quadro entered for?
Just one, just the consumers.
Okay, and did you hear the testimony of the defendant that he was never informed by you or asked by you for payment?
Yes.
Is that correct?
No.
Are you aware of your previous attorney requesting any payment from him?
Yes, my attorney sent him several letters requesting him to make the payment, and he would not make the payment to him. So my attorney finally told me, Kim.
Ma'am, I'm not asking you to
what the
testify.
attorney said.
Sustained.
So,
Ma'am, I'm only asking you what you personally know, not what your attorney told him.
okay. So I was told that I had to basically pay it myself, or I was not going to be able to have it done. So I paid it all myself.
All right, thank you. I have no further questions.
Mr. White?
And looking at the motion that you filed, Ms. Russ, I tried to figure out exactly how much you claim Joe owes for health insurance. Can you tell me what that exact amount is?
I've sent it to him. I sent him the total. I'd have
I'm
to.
talking right now from the motion you filed. How much do you say Joe owes you right now?
I believe it's $542.
For health insurance?
Yes,
Okay.
per month.
You realize that reading this motion, there's no way to figure out or calculate any idea what you're owed. You've seen this motion, right? You didn't sign it, but you've seen it.
It's in the judgment of divorce. He has to pay 75%.
But isn't it true that nothing was ever filed in the court system regarding Joe's supposed non-payment until about 3 weeks before we started our evidentiary hearing on this, right?
Yes, due to COVID, we couldn't get anything done. And I knew we were going to court. Not only that, is we canceled one time because I didn't have an attorney the whole entire time. I just was able to get an attorney through work, help through them through a program.
Your attorney was hired months before you filed this motion,
Only-
right before.
Only a
Months.
couple. Yes, and the last time we had to cancel, I was in the emergency room.
So you don't have an exact amount that Joe owes you then, right now, that you claim that he owes you for health insurance, do you? A total?
He's not even paid this month. I have to text
I'm
him
not,
every.
that's not what I ask you. I'm asking you filed this motion asking the judge to enforce the judgment of divorce. Tell us right now, how much does Joe owe you right this minute? How much?
For this month, he owes me
No.
$540.
Total. Since
75% of $6,930.26. Plus
how
he
much is
owes,
that?
I've already given Joe all the totals.
No. Right now, how much does Joe owe you
Your
for
Honor,
health insurance only? How much do you claim he owes you right now?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. He's trying to argue with the witness. She's already testified a few seconds ago that for that, it would be a 75% of it. He's asking her to do the math of it.
Math of what? We don't have any numbers. She's given no documentation. She files a 2-page motion that you couldn't figure out what she's asking for price-wise if you took a week. I'm asking one question. You filed this motion. How much does Joe owe you right now for unpaid health insurance? It shouldn't be difficult.
For just the one bill, he owes $5,197.69. That's for the amount that I had to come up with.
But no. Does that count any of the payments that he's made? What about all the other months? Tell us what he owes for everything.
He's only made 9 payments totals in the whole 3 years.
I'll just move on, Judge. I think you're getting my point. Now, in your other part of your verified motion, you claim it says that the defendant was ordered to pay 75% of the party's marital debts. You remember that, right?
Yes,
Okay. And it says to date, defendant has made no payments towards these debt and put the entire burden on the plaintiff with her limited income. You remember that?
yeah.
How much of the $5,000 in the first debt did you contribute to Joe that he paid off?
Joe hasn't asked me for a dime for that.
That's funny because you haven't asked him for a dime until
Yes.
right before our trial, have you?
I have proof that I sent him certified mail 3 different times. I have proof of the envelopes right here, and he refused to open the door. The mailman tried for 2 months to get him to open the door, and he would not open the door.
They hold
So I tried
certified mail for 2 months?
Yes, 3 different times.
So
3
you
different
must have
times.
immediately filed something with the court then, right?
3 different times I've tried, and he refused to open the door.
But you admit that you've given Joe absolutely no money towards the debts that he's paid, right?
Joe hasn't said one word about those
Okay.
bills.
That's not what I asked you. Have you given Joe any money for the debts that he's paid towards? Have you given him any money?
He hasn't asked me for any money.
Your Honor, could you instruct her just a simple answer?
I'm taking the answer as no,
No.
she didn't pay anything towards those.
Okay. But you agree that you owe him 25% of what he's paid on those debts, don't you?
Yeah, because it's in the judgment. Absolutely.
So again, looking at your motion that you filed, how much does Joe owe you right now for payments that you've made? How much does he owe you?
I don't have the paper right in front of me, Eric, but I've sent him certified mail the totals.
Don't care about certified mail. You tell me right now, today, how much have you paid and how much does Joe owe you? How much is it?
As far as what I've paid, I sent to the court. We filed with the court proof that I've been making payments to Green
No.
Path on everything that Joe was
No.
ordered by the judge to pay 75% on. I've been
No, you
paying
haven't.
them. Yes, I have.
Ma'am, answer my question.
I don't even have groceries in my house half the time because I'm paying the bills that he was
And-
ordered to pay.
Answer his question, ma'am.
How much right now? You're the one that filed this motion. Joe didn't file a motion. You filed a motion saying Joe owes you money. You tell the court, how much does Joe owe you right now? You file a motion. It's your motion, not Joe's.
I
Your Honor.
don't have the
Your Honor.
totals in front of me.
Your Honor, may my client take a recess so that I can assist her in the mathematical computation so that she can properly answer Mr. White's question?
I object to that, Your Honor. She doesn't need any assistance. She filed a motion that's sketchy to be best. And now that it's time to answer some questions, I was given time to prepare for her motion. She shows up today on her motion unprepared. She can't answer any of these questions.
The judge.
Got to show the court how ridiculous this motion is.
Ma'am. Your Honor, I'll repeat my request. If Mr. White is requesting a numeric number, I would ask for a short recess so that my client can calculate that number and provide it to him.
She can do it right here on the record,
Well,
Judge.
Here's the challenge for me from both sides. If we've got debts that each of them share responsibility for, before I'm going to order anybody to reimburse the other, I want to see proof of payments that were made. The judgment is really clear.
I agree, Your Honor. I didn't file this motion.
But your client's, in fact, wanting credit for the debts that he did pay.
And he testified,
I'm not going to issue credits to anybody till I see what actually has been paid. If indeed Mr. Russ paid the entire $5,000 American One Credit Union Visa, I want to see proof that that payment was made. If there's proof that that payment was made, Ms. Russ is going to be responsible for 25% of it. Same thing with the signature loan. As to all these other debts that are listed here, and these are the debts of the parties because they're in the judgment of divorce. For every debt that Ms. Russ has paid on, Mr. Russ is going to pay his share of that debt. For any debt that Mr. Russ has paid on, Mrs. Russ is going to pay her share of that debt. But I'm not going to I'm not going to set a number today. I can't do that. I want to see proof. And to the extent that it wasn't paid, the only relief I've got is I can say, okay, you owe this amount of money, but this is the money damage portion of the judgment. Your enforcement of that isn't through an order to pay. Your enforcement of that is through the collection remedies that are available to you under Michigan statutes. Now, it's different with spousal support. If spousal support hasn't been paid, I can certainly order that. I can have somebody jailed for contempt for not paying the spousal support. But not paying debts is a money judgment. And I'm willing to give a money judgment to both sides or a net of both when I'm provided with satisfactory evidence that one, the person who's seeking reimbursement has paid, and proof of that payment so that we can do the calculation. It's really pretty simple. I don't have anything in front of me today from which I could even make that determination.
I didn't file this, Your Honor. I got this on January 27th. I have put my client on to testify. You've seen this motion. This motion has zero specifics or particularity. My client testified with great particularity on essentially everything but one that he wasn't sure of. Ms. Russ files this motion, yet can't give the court an amount. I agree with you, but I didn't file this garbage.
I'm not criticizing you, Mr. White. I'm just telling you, this is what I'm going to order.
Okay, I appreciate that. I'll move to the next part then, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
So, Ms. Russ, how many quadros are there to be done?
3.
And one was completed, right?
Yes,
And you heard Mr. Russ testify that he attempted to pay that at Quadro Express, didn't you?
yes,
In fact, that's the company that prepared this, right?
yes,
And again, up until about 6 weeks ago, there's nothing been filed with the courts in any way, shape, or form saying that Joe hasn't paid for his share of the quadros, is there? Nothing's been filed with the court since November of 2018, has there?
because I've been asking him for the money.
Isn't that true? Nothing's been filed with the court since November of 2018, right?
Your Honor, relevance?
Your point is made, Mr. White. It's clear from all of the testimony I've heard today, although she may have had communications with him about it, didn't file anything with the court until this recent motion.
That's all I had then, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, well, I've told you what I'm going to do with the debts. I understand why Quadro won't issue a Quadro if it's only got partial payment from one party. That makes sense. So if Ms. Russ advances funds to pay for the Quadro, she's entitled to be reimbursed for half of that from, or whatever percentage I ordered. I can't remember. Was that a 75-25 or was that a 50-50?
I'll check, Your Honor.
I think it's 50-50, Judge.
It looks like 50-50, Your Honor.
All right. So if she pays for the Quadro, he's going to owe her for half.
So he owes
But I
for
think-
one. He owes one half, then, right?
He owes one half for the one that has been issued.
Correct.
And when the others get issued, he will owe her for half of those.
Of course. Yes.
So, Your Honor, are you saying that he doesn't have to put half up front, but she pays the whole thing and then seeks compensation at that point?
The problem with half up front is they won't issue a Quadro with half. They want 100%. The practical way for Ms. Russ to get that done is to go ahead and pay for it, and Mr. Russ will have to reimburse her. It's the same thing for any of these debts that Mr. Russ has paid. If he's paid them, then she owes him for her 25%. And it should be pretty easy. If you've got proof of debt, proof of payment, we can do a spreadsheet to show how much credit she gets, how much credit he gets, and the bottom line is that's how much they owe. But I want to see proof of payment. I don't want to just hear, I think I paid it, or I'm pretty sure I paid it. I want to see proof of payment.
Okay.
Your Honor?
The health insurance is a more complicated issue. I'm a little puzzled even now with why Mr. Russ is paying $475 a month if the insurance policy that's currently in place has a premium of $714 a month. It would seem like the arithmetic would show that he owes, see if my,
535.50.
yeah, $535.50 a month.
Of course, we don't know that, Your Honor, because they haven't put forth any proof.
I absolutely need to see an invoice. And to the extent she's been paying, he's going to have to reimburse her for her share. As far as the COBRA, I understand that that was probably better coverage, but it's unreasonable to expect someone to come up with such a substantial sum of money instead of having to pay it monthly at a time when it's more affordable. That created a huge obligation for people who clearly live beyond their means. When you've got this many credit debts outstanding, that's a pretty good indication to me that every month they're spending everything they make. So how do I add on top of that the obligation to come up with thousands of dollars in payments? It's just not practical. But to the extent debts were paid, proof of debts, proof of payment, and proof of the amount of the debt are submitted, I'm going to credit Ms. Russ with 75% of the things that she's paid. I'm going to credit Mr. Russ with 25% of the things that he's paid. But you got some more work to do to put this together. I don't have enough in front of me that I would feel comfortable making any ruling without knowing that there's been proof of payment.
Your Honor, may I ask a clarification?
Yes.
And I just so I understand clearly, that lump sum payment that you indicated shouldn't have been such a large amount all at once. Am I including that as well as part of the 75-25% split or not?
Let me hear from Mr. White on that issue. You obviously would want me to include it. Mr. White?
I don't have proof of any kind of payments. We've had nothing. We've had numbers with documentation, nothing. I had to ask Miss Russ over and over to say, how much does Joe actually owe? They filed this motion without her even bothering to do the calculation themselves. I'm trying to do their work. If they can't even tell us, she should be entitled to zero if they can't even bother to figure it out. My client may have to owe something, but there needs to be an accounting much like the debts, because my clients made payments. There have been months where there were no coverage. This motion is just wholly inadequate, as much as the testimony's been. My client's done what he can do.
You can include that, Mr. McFarland, but there has to be proof of the debt, proof of payment.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Just like the debts, then, Your Honor, proof of payments, and I need proof of the debts as well, how much the premiums were actually there. Yeah.
Yes, actual proof. And I would expect counsel to exchange that information. If you can come to agreement on what the total is, great. If you can't, you can bring it back in front of me. But I am only going to award for what I've got proof of payment and proof of the debt.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, I think that deals with all the unpaid obligations. Let's talk about, I want to hear arguments on the modification of spousal support.
Thank you, Your Honor. We need to dispel some myths that have gone on here. And Mr. McFarland has submitted some type of hearing brief, and it has a number of calculations with the Craig Ross program. I've tried to explain to him that we didn't follow Craig Ross at the beginning. Why would we use it now? You didn't follow Craig Ross because you believe, of course, that Milan is the law, and you just can't follow Craig Ross. So attaching guidelines from Craig Ross at this point is completely a waste of time, because it ignores the starting point. We know how much the income was that Mr. Russ had and what you based his spousal support on. We know those numbers are real. We have to ignore this Craig Ross stuff. It has nothing to do with this. The only equitable way to do this, Your Honor, my client has had a certain percentage of decrease in his salary. Why Ms. Russ shouldn't share in that decrease is beyond me. I could probably run those guidelines and twist them around 8 different ways, but the fact is that's not the law, and that's not what you did in this case. And I understand Mr. McFarland wasn't here for the trial, but he's under this misconception that somehow we just use Craig Ross and you can use them again. The fact is, that's not what this was based on. All we're asking to do is to reduce this spousal support obligation in the same percentage that my clients reduced his income. It's the only equitable way to calculate this. And I realize this is difficult for Miss Russ, but she made a big production out of, I'm disabled, I can't work. Well, you know, I was looking through my file. I'd ask the court to take a really good look at her trial brief, because all the stuff she testified to today is the same thing she testified to 3 years ago. And none of it came true. She's still working at Allegiance. She's not on disability. She's never been approved for SSI or SSD. The fact is, she's had no real change in income. It's all the same stuff she's made that's been talked about before. There has been nothing for her changed. Her income has stayed steady. Joe's has dropped tremendously. We're asking that you reduce it by a like percentage, and that would be retroactive about 13 months worth, Your Honor, because we filed this back in February of 2020, but obviously the world came off the hinges. And I would note for the court, this has been adjourned a few times, none of which were chargeable to my client. Those were all either Mr. Russ or Mr. McFarland that had scheduling difficulties or illnesses. So I realized that that could be a burden to go retroactive back to then, but that's no fault of Mr. Russ. And we would ask that that's how you do it, by that percentage basis. I can think of no other equitable way, Your Honor. Thank you.
What is that percentage?
That percentage is
Yeah.
well, the income before, Your Honor, was 140. We used 142. One second, Judge. I'm trying to. It was 145, Your Honor, was what you had originally based that on. And I believe that his income, well, last for 2019 was 118.6. And then, so he had a reduction of about $2,200 a month then. His income is slightly higher. It's about a $2,000 a month income difference is what his reduction is, Your Honor. So I'm trying to do my math here, Your Honor, but the only thing I can tell you is he's had a reduction of approximately $2,000 a month. It's about 17%, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. McFarland.
So, Your Honor, my client today has informed me of information she has recently found out about, or recently told me at least, about side work of the defendants. I was not aware of that at the previous hearing. I guess I would ask the court's permission to ask to ask defendant if there's any side work that he works as well, so the court would have a totality of what his complete income is.
I think before I'd ask him, I'd want to know what information Ms. Russ has before we even bother him with it.
Okay, so Ms. Russ has indicated, at least she's told me, of a side job that he did in 2019 and a side job that he did in 2020 as well. And I would ask the court for an opportunity to ask him if those side jobs that he did in 2019 and 2020 were actual jobs that he did take on, if he has taken on any further side jobs, and total income from side jobs in 2019 and 2020, so that the court can know his complete income, not just income from his employer.
Why am I just hearing about this now?
I just heard about it myself, Your Honor. So that's why you are just hearing about it right now.
I think it's a little late, counsel.
The only thing I would say, Your Honor, is that although Mr. White has pointed out several times, I was not here at the original divorce trial, that when the court was calculating, and this is based on what my client has told me, when the court was calculating the complete income for the defendant, it also took into consideration his side jobs as well, not just solely his employment from his employer.
That's how we got the.
And I was not informed until today that there could be potential side work that he is still working on it.
Well, I can tell you, I certainly don't remember what testimony was 3 years ago.
Can I say something?
I can certainly go back and review the transcript, or review the recording rather, if it will shed any light on how I came up with the number that I did. But I certainly can't remember that kind of stuff. And
I'm sorry to tell the court this.
And I guarantee you, we don't retain exhibits from that far back. They're not kept in the court files. Exhibits are typically returned to the parties. So I have no way of knowing what I based that spousal support number on, absent somebody producing exhibits that were introduced and admitted at the trial, or absent me going back and listening to the recording to see what I based it on. I have no idea sitting here today.
Your Honor, he
Whether
does
side
lots
jobs
of
were
side
included
work.
or not.
Ma'am,
He does-
you're not allowed to speak at this point. I'm sorry, Your Honor, I did not hear what you said.
If my award of spousal support was based in part upon income that he had from side jobs, I would have had some evidence of what his income was from side jobs. It would have shown up on his tax returns. But I don't have that stuff in the file anymore. We don't save that stuff.
I'm looking for the trial brief, Your Honor, from Ms. Ross. I don't remember that even being mentioned in a trial brief.
I guess I would ask the court if I would be allowed to order a copy of the transcript for the court to assist the court in seeing if this was actually part of the previous calculation. My client would be willing to do that.
In looking at the trial brief, Your Honor, it's not even mentioned in there.
Well, I'm looking at the trial brief and other information submitted prior to the trial, and I do see a Craig Ross calculation sheet that pegs the defendant's income at $110,148 a year. Now, I don't know where that number came from.
Without overtime, Judge. That's his, that was his base salary.
And whatever evidence, what other evidence of income was actually introduced at trial, I don't know, without going back and looking at the transcript. And like I said, we don't save exhibits, so I'm
That's my,
guessing there were tax returns or W-2s or something to that effect. Without that, I mean, I'm operating in a complete vacuum here. How do I know how much, if any, to adjust spousal support if I don't even know what income I started with?
Your Honor, to assist the court, my client will order a copy of that transcript so that the court can see what the original number came up with, what the percentage was from his employer, and what percent from side jobs. I was not there. This has been pointed out numerous times, but obviously the transcript would help answer that question.
I think I certainly need that.
Yes, Your Honor.
I based my figures off of my notes from your ruling, Judge. That's how I went off of it, but.
And if I made a finding of what his income was, that would be the key. But I don't know what that is.
I guess I would ask, Your Honor, the court should permit me to order the transcript so that I can present it to both opposing counsel and the court.
I certainly don't have objection.
And with the transcript, you can simply submit something indicating which page and line you're referring to. Make sure you copy Mr. White with that so that if he sees other things in the transcript that perhaps cut in a different direction, he has the ability to address those issues.
Yes, Your Honor.
Absent that, it's hard for me to make a decision here today. I don't have a starting point, and the starting point is essential.
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, what was the court's decision on my being allowed to ask the other opposing side about if he's still doing side jobs?
If I based my decision upon income from side jobs, if he does or doesn't have side jobs now, that would be essential in order for me to decide how to compare current income with past income. So I will allow you to ask about side jobs. So go ahead, Mr.
Do you want to wait? Do you want to, Your Honor, did you want to wait until I got the transcript? So
I don't want to drag you guys back into court if I have to. It's clear to me that neither one of these parties can afford attorneys on top of the other obligations they're struggling with. So if we can save you both a little time, that'll save your clients a little money.
Yes, Your Honor.
So Mr. Russ,
Meg.
you still
Yes,
with
sir.
us? All right, Mr. McFarland is going to ask you some questions.
All right, Mr. Russ, have you done any side work in the year of 2019? This would be beyond your regular employment.
No, sir.
All right. Is it your testimony then that you have not worked on a house in Jackson County where you fixed a bedroom and a bathroom?
Not to my recollection.
And you don't believe you ever told Ms. Russ about that?
I've helped friends work on their house. I've helped friends do different projects, but I don't do side work. I don't have time.
And so you didn't charge any money for that?
No, sir.
All right, so let's go to the year 2020, sir. Are you familiar with the house at 6309 Penny Lane in Jackson, Michigan?
Yes, sir, I am.
Did you used to live in that house?
Yes, sir, I did.
All right. Did you do work on the basement on that house in the year 2020?
No, sir, I didn't do any work on the basement on that house in 2020.
Sir, did you do any work on the pole barn on that property in the year 2020?
Yes, sir. I helped the neighbor that bought my old house hang some drywall in the ceiling
All right, and
for
are you,
free as a friend for a couple beers.
and is it your testimony that you've done absolutely no side work for the year 2020?
No, sir.
But it is your testimony that you've helped out various people but simply not charged. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
How many jobs would you state in the year 2020 you have helped various people with and not asked for any money whatsoever?
I couldn't put a number to it. I plow neighbors' driveways while I'm plowing the road. They'll buy me a bottle of whiskey. I don't know, 5 or 6.
I have no further questions for this witness.
Any questions, Mr. White?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Your Honor, may I call my witness, my client?
Go ahead. Ms. Russ, you're still under oath.
All right, ma'am, did Mr. Russ ever have any discussion with you regarding side jobs that he did in the year 2019?
Yes.
What were they?
He told me about further work that he was doing for a couple that he was doing work for in 2018. He told me he was doing more work for them. He was bragging to me about how now she wanted her bedroom done, her bathroom done. He made a substantial amount of money on that job. And he was
Let's back up. Stop 1 second. You indicate that he made a substantial amount of money. How do you know that?
Because he told me.
When you say a substantial amount of money, what amount of money are you what does substantial mean?
I don't recall exactly. I know it was in the thousands of dollars that they paid him to do that whole job. And he's done work for them since.
And what was that job?
That was the job in 2019 where he remodeled their bathroom, her bedroom. And I believe then the next job was the kitchen. Because he showed me pictures of how he put her in scrapbooking areas.
Okay. In the year 2020, did he talk to you at all about any side jobs that he did?
Yes, 5 or 6 side jobs he told me about.
Did he indicate that he did them for beer or for friends, or did he do them for cash or for compensation?
For compensation. He doesn't do work for nothing.
All right, so when we're saying compensation, are you saying just for a beer, or are you talking about for money?
For money.
And did he tell you that?
That's how the judge based his thing on, was his side work along with his income. He makes a lot of money in side work.
Ma'am, on the 6309 Penny Lane property in Jackson, Michigan, were you ever told anything by him about that property in the year 2020?
Yes.
What were you told by him?
That he helped him redo the whole entire basement. He remodeled the basement. And then after that, he remodeled or redid the barn.
Did he tell you that he did that simply for him as a friend?
No.
What did he tell you?
He does it for money.
Did he specifically state that on that property he did it for money?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Questions, Mr. White?
Just one, Your Honor. Ms. Russ, other than your testimony, this is the first time this has been brought up before, isn't it? You didn't bring it up last time we were here, did you?
We didn't get this far last time.
And you have, other than your testimony, you don't have a single bit of evidence or documents or anything to support your claim that Joe got thousands of dollars, do you?
It's the God's honest truth that he told me that.
Again, but you, other than your God's honest truth, you brought nothing into the court to back up your story, did you?
He gave me nothing on it, no.
Thank you. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay, I will await the transcript.
Yes, Your Honor.
Everybody stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Eric.
That concludes our hearing.
No, I guess you didn't have to testify.